Welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I am Ralph Dimitrius, one of the calendar's astrologers. In this segment, we're going to talk about the chart of Halle Berry, the actress, the star really. This is a person who's very famous on the screen and has had a nice long career that seems to be continuing very well. The thing that's interesting about her chart is that it's very much that of an actress's. And by that, I mean a great deal of it is below the horizon. So nighttime. So she was born at night. She was actually born August 14th, Leo sun, 1966, a Sunday, at 11:58 or 11:59 p.m. in Cleveland, Ohio. So the sun was very close to the middle of the night. It puts her sun in the fourth house. Well, most of the planets are below the horizon. The only things above the horizon are Saturn in Pisces, retrograde in the 11th house. Right at the descendant, so it falls in the 7th house, is Neptune. And we're going to come back to Neptune. The midheaven is 29 degrees Capricorn. So there was a real strong drive to succeed. But the sun is in the fourth house, one of the two most feminine houses, the deepest into the night. And hers is in the fourth house. Her moon is there too, also in Leo. So there's a strong unity between the two, although they're separated by quite a bit. The moon is at 3 degrees, the sun is at 21 degrees. Mercury is also there, conjunct the moon. So she is able to speak right from her emotions. Her emotions and what comes through her mouth, they're right there together. The great thing about that is it gives her tremendous flexibility in her ability to communicate. She can emote her feelings really well, express them well, but it can make her a little volatile because, everything there is a little squiggly. It's a little dramatic. It's a little over the top. Another factor that's real interesting comes up with the asteroids. The sun is loosely conjunct, 21 to 29 degrees, Vesta. Whenever Vesta shows up by a fire planet, either Mars or the sun or even Uranus, it supercharges it. It makes it especially bright. And this is something that added a luminosity to her personality, a real brightness. It also makes her very easily identifiable as feminine. This is a feminine archetype. Vesta, Vesta was the daughter who kept the fires burning while her father was away at wars. Later on, the Vestal Virgins were the high priest of Rome, and they kept literally a fire burning at all times. They also were the recorders of all wills, which was interesting, and they stored them all. It's this feminine archetype, the willingness to be loyal. What's interesting is that because the moon is there, her real loyalty has a lot more to do with her feminine matriarchy than to the patriarchy. And in fact, you see it because the nodal axis, the north node, south node, that little horseshoe, those two horseshoes up and down, are right at the ascendant and the descendant. The ascendant is 20 degrees Taurus, descendant is 20 degrees Scorpio. The ascendant is conjunct partile, same degree, with the north node, the descendant with the south node, 20 degrees. There's a very strong connection to her matrilineal line, reincarnationally. Okay, the women in her life have been very significant. The fact that the sun is in the fourth house of the mother, of the home, and the moon is there too, and Vesta, boy, this is a woman who comes from a deep well of femininity, of feminine power. The fact the sun is in Leo, and it's relatively late in the sign, it's true power. Okay, so her chart is all about feminine power. Now, the Saturn up in the upper atmosphere over the sky. In other words, you would have seen, if you went out in the middle of the night when she was born, you would have seen Saturn rising in the east in Pisces, late in the sign, 28 degrees retrograde. Oftentimes means that the father is somehow removed from the early experience, or she feels removed from her father somehow or other. The Saturn above, though, does give a real desire to be successful when it's in the 11th house. Oftentimes the desire to be successful commercially. So she would have sought artistic avenues or working avenues in which there was money in it. It wasn't just about acclaim. It was about money. What's interesting is that the midheaven is actually in the 9th house of knowledge. So a lot of it was about expanding her knowledge of life. She's a real seeker in terms of that. But when it came to work, it was about the money. Now, what's interesting is that Saturn at 28 degrees is conjunct Chiron at 25 degrees in Pisces. There's something about her father. There's something about depending on men that is a spiritual wound to her. Because it's in the 11th house, that's the area of the community. So I'm sure that she's had a number of big relationship issues that have been out there in the media. She's felt especially wounded by that. It probably in some ways for a star has made her very private about her personal life, which is hard to do when you have the sun, the moon, and Mercury invested in the 4th house, because everyone tends to want to see it. At the rising, there's no other major planets except for the nodal axis. The actual first visible body you see is in the 3rd house, the Jupiter in Cancer, which is conjunct Mars and Venus from 22 to 23 degrees. Those two are very, very conjunct to Venus at 29 degrees. So she has this very strong sense of femininity. You get around to, there's no question about the fact that she's a girl, she's a woman, she's feminine. It's very obvious. What's interesting, it's in the 3rd house, and it's about about her youthfulness, that she comes across as youthful. She also comes across kind of as mischievous. The 3rd house is the little kid, comes across as mischievous. Interestingly, she has Juno there too, right at the beginning of the sign. Well, Juno's the marriage asteroid. And one thing that she has encountered many times when men first meet her, they think, boy, she would make a great wife. That part of fortune at 8 degrees Gemini in the 2nd house shows her interest in making money. And she wants to make the money, early in life, Gemini. But what's interesting is that while you have the asteroid series, you have Juno, those points in the line, people don't tend to see that about her. What they would see first is the Jupiter, Mars, Venus, which is very appealing inside of a Taurian shell being supported by that Venus in Cancer. So a very, very feminine energy. But then when you get to the core of this, which is the 4th house in Leo, you have realized behind all of this femininity is this core strength. That's right there. Now, on her personal side, though, in her 5th house, which is about her creativity, she has Uranus and Pluto, right, in Virgo. Once again, a feminine archetype. So in her creativity, Uranus, which is excitement, conjunct Pluto, which is like potency and sexual power, conjunct in the house of creativity, it allows her to bring this to her performances. She comes across as sexy and exciting in her creative expression. On the other hand, because it's there, she tends to be attracted to guys who are sexy, but maybe a little controlling and eccentric. This is supported again in her 7th house because she has Scorpio there. So she tends to want to marry guys who are, very controlling, very potent. And it gets worse because she has Neptune there. So it means there are people who can be maybe deceitful or illusionary or, have issues with drugs our conflicted loyalties. So there's so much power in this, but when she tries to give her power over to a partner, she runs into trouble. And her life has had a number of very convoluted relationships and power struggles because it oftentimes comes back to she wants to be in her own power. And that comes all across in the screen, for all of the mischievousness and beauty and sexual potency and excitement, there's power inside of that chart. So I hope you find this one interesting. It's a very powerful chart and gives real insights into what makes a very good actress for the screen. Thanks so much. Make sure you come back and see us on Tuesdays for our portrait, on Fridays for our forecast at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. And of course, you can visit Planetary Calendar Astrology to get your calendars because, you need to know what's going on. And thanks so much for joining us, and be well.